And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning on KIDO Talk Radio. We're joined by Steve Pankey out of Twin Falls, Idaho, running for governor. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Thank you for having me on as a guest. Well,
appreciate you being on now. If I'm mistaken, did you run for governor the last time as well, or was that lieutenant governor? I know you've been running for a while.
I ran in 2014 for governor under the Constitution Party.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. I know that this is not your first time running. So why go from the Constitution Party to the Republican Party, sir?
Well, the Republican Party is the party that makes it happen in Idaho. My conservative beliefs go along with the liberty-minded candidates of the more conservative, the constitutional candidates in the Republican Party. As you know, the Republican Party is deeply divided. I would say Tommy and Brad are more liberal moderates at best, mostly liberal in the Republican Party. And I would say I am the only governor candidate in the Republican Party with traditional Judeo-Christian values.
That's quite a big swing at the bat when you've got Congressman Labrador in the race.
Well, frankly, Congressman Labrador doesn't have the Judeo-Christian values. He frankly serves a Jesus that is the brother of Satan. And I'm not knocking Mormonism. I'm just saying there is quite a difference between him and me. I will be 100% on board with Trump-Pence. I'm very pro-Israel. I'm pro moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, our embassy. And I don't think Labrador's voting record is near as conservative as he would like to say. So I think
you got to back that one up, Steve. Those are some big ones. Congressman Labrador, very popular here, and you're a smart guy. So when you say his conservative record isn't what it's cracked up to be, and if I'm paraphrasing and if I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, please correct me. But what do you see when it comes to Congressman Labrador? Does he lack when it comes to conservative bona fides?
Well, for instance, this is just one for instance. In his voting record, he voted for a couple of years ago to allow these robocalls and these sales calls on cell phones, which we didn't have before. Well, he talks about being for the consumer and all. So personally, every time I get one of those goofy sales calls on my cell phone, I say, thank you, Labrador. He just isn't. He's very good at talking conservative, but he's not actually doing conservative. Rand Paul, who I consider a true conservative, a fiscal conservative, isn't backing Labrador. He doesn't. So I just don't think Labrador is all that conservative. If there's a vote that JFAC is going to do today that I'd like to talk to you about, if that's okay.
Well, we'll get to that, though. This is the Kevin Miller Show, not the Steve Pankey Show, with all due respect, Steve.
Yes, sir.
Okay, no worries. We're friends here. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO, I think you have differentiated yourself between yourself and Congressman Labrador. What about the Lieutenant Governor and Dr. Alquist? You said they're, moderates to liberals. Can you expand upon that?
Well,
Or did you? Or did you say that?
I did say that, and as far as on the campaign trail, Brad Little is a total gentleman. I want to say that, and he's. We differentiate a whole lot when it comes to like the health insurance. I am blatantly for buying health insurance across state lines. I believe you're going to get better rates, but also you're going to get better health insurance because across state lines you got more insurance companies competing. Brad, I see as second lieutenant to Brad Little. I think will be Otter too, and his state-run health insurance thing I think will be a failure. So that's a differentiation between me and Brad Little. Now, when it comes to Tommy, I think he's blatantly a Democrat running as a Republican. He's made millions off of state-run building projects and all. I think he's a Democrat. So,
well, I don't think you're going to get any love letters on the campaign trail between your Republican colleagues. Let's talk a little bit about your platform. And by the way, Steve Pankey joining us, Kevin Miller in the morning on KIDO Talk Radio. If elected, what would you do to handle education, sir? And we'll get to what the issue that you brought up. With all due respect, just to get you on record about some issues. Education, obviously, we're losing a lot of folks. They get their schooling here, they move on because of the lack of job opportunities. We still are getting hit with levy after levy, growth after growth. So, if elected governor, what would you do, Mr. Pankey?
I'm for school options. I'm for homeschooling. As far as I'm concerned, Idaho is the most proactive homeschool state in the nation. I'm for private schools. I'm for charter schools. I'm for public schools. I'm for technical schools. And I'm for focused degrees in higher education.
Well, what does that mean?
It means I want to keep Idaho having choices in education. I think we can lower our costs in education when we have choices, such as homeschool. And I think with the current chaos that is happening in schools, the shootings and all, I think more and more people are considering private schools, charter schools, homeschooling.
And so you would strengthen the homeschooling if elected, but what about funding for education?
I don't think we need to increase funding. If anything, I think we can decrease funding if all of those options are left on the table. If, for instance, we emphasize technical schools, and if we went to focused degrees in higher education, in some of our colleges today, you can get a degree in living with yourself in your past life. And if we focus on only degrees that are doable for getting a profession with, I think that's the way to go.
All right.
I think the same dollars better spent will work.
All right, Steve Pankey, we continue on. Kevin Miller in the morning here. Your thoughts on the governor?
Butch Otter?
He's the governor, yes.
Okay. He is a very friendly person. He has a listed phone number. He's one of the most accessible governors in the state. He's compared to Jerry Brown. He's conservative. Compared to a constitutionalist, he would be a moderate. He would be in the top 3 to 5 good governors in the United States as far as I'm concerned. I would consider Governor Abbott out of Texas the number one governor. Governor Butch Otter, I would say, would be in the top 2 to 3. So he's a good governor overall.
Well, he's endorsed Lieutenant Governor Brad Little.
Yes, he has.
He hasn't endorsed Steve Pankey.
Okay, but he's for Medicaid expansion, which I'm not for. I am strongly opposed to Medicaid expansion, and his health insurance policy I don't think will work. My daughter-in-law right now, she came here legally from Peru, and she is dying of breast cancer, and because of Idaho's goofy Obamacare-esque policies, she is back in her native Peru getting better health care for her breast cancer than she could get in the United States. The current system under Obamacare, and I know President Trump has rightly reduced a lot of this, but it's just not working.
All right. Steve, finally, what do you want to? What event did you want to bring up today here at KIDO Talk Radio?
This morning, JFAC, the Joint Finance Appropriations Committee, is going to be voting on moving the ITD, the Idaho Transportation Department, out of the city of Shoshone in Lincoln County. That's between Twin Falls and Ketchum. And this is just a disaster. It's a waste of money. It is both fiscally irresponsible. It's totally inefficient in the use of Idaho state money. So this is something that's happening today that's they're talking millions and millions of dollars that will be just thrown down the drain. This is state overreach. This is waste of money. And this is one of the issues that I want to deal with. There are many issues where the state of money is just throwing money at everything. And so I would encourage people to vote for Steve Pankey for governor on May 15th.
All right, Steve, if people want to get a hold of you, what's your website?
It's pankeyforidaho.com.
Well, we'll have you back, and don't be a stranger.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me on your show.
All right, there we have it. With reaction, Eric in Cuna with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Eric.
Hey, morning, Kevin. I was listening to that guy. I thought he was a caller there for a little bit, but I realized he's running for governor.
I think he thought he was a caller.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be voting for him, but if you look at the last, like earlier in your segment about the CBD oil, and if you looked at Alquist, Alquist, obviously, I think he's a doctor and he's a developer. I mean, nothing against. I'm sure he's not. I'm not gonna trash talk him or Butch as much as I like Butch, but he's kind of let us all down. I don't know what his deal is. He's hunkering down, and he doesn't even come out and talk to you. And he played a little game with the grocery tax, and now he's doing it with the CBD oil. Now, why is he doing it with the CBD oil? Because it might open up the door for marijuana legalization.
I think here, hold on, Eric. I think the last time Governor Otter was on was when he was seeking re-election.
I talked to him. I remember,
and needed every friend that he could get. And I remember.
I gave him because he signed that one bill. That's why I gave him a thumbs up.
I remember the First Lady, because we covered that night, said thank you for all your help, all your listeners' help, and we haven't seen him or heard from him since.
Huh? Yeah, that's that. Well, we've heard from him. We've heard what he's doing in his last few days. I mean, I don't know what this little game is with the CBD oil, but I'm personally for for full legalization. I mean, I think that it's an individual choice, and there's so many benefits to it. And I mean, a lot of people say, well, that's a liberal thing for wanting marijuana legalization. No, actually, it's not. It's completely conservative and constitutional about individual freedom, and it has so many benefits. And especially, now the CBD oil is actually pretty good, but actually, the people that have the really bad epileptic seizures, like the people that like have the bad ones that cause brain damage, they actually benefit better from the oil with the THC in it. Just so you know, you can look that one up. But anyway, yeah, that's ridiculous, man. They can't play games like that. Who do they think they are? I mean, they just close the doors and, I mean, what are they doing? I mean, we hired them to do a job, and they're playing games. Right?
Eric, great call. Thank you, brother. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Love you, brother.
Love you.
Keep up the good work, man. You're great. You just, this morning, man, your commentary was just spot on, man. It was great. I want to tell you that.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, buddy.
All right, our great friend Eric in Kuna. We go to Pro-Life with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Pro-Life.
Good morning. The reason I called is I want to talk about the transgender marriage license.
And we haven't brought that up yet.
Well, on the news they did. Do you want me to talk about it, or do you want me to go to CBD oil? I want to talk about that, too.
You know something? I just like to give you a hard time. It's how I show my affection.
Well, hey, all right. Well, a federal judge should not be able to make law for Idaho saying that we have to have transgender marriage, transgender birth certificates. And so this fellow, I think he's a man wanting to be a woman. He wants
You're
to
saying
have
wait a minute, the judge is a man wanting to be a woman?
No.
Oh, sorry.
The transgender, I think, is a man wanting to be a woman, and so he wants his birth certificate changed. And Idaho says we're not going to do that. Well, so a federal judge ruled in his favor, so now supposedly Idaho has to issue an order that he can change his birth certificate. Now, that's totally ridiculous. It's against natural law. It's against any kind of sensibility whatsoever. And not only that, it's not the jurisdiction of a federal judge to be making that law. It isn't a law, that ruling. And the state of Idaho, the governor, the attorney general should just say, no, we're not going to have that, and we're not going to go to federal court and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars defending our decision. We're just not going to have marriage licenses being all...
You mean birth certificates?
Birth certificates.
Yeah, you're on the marriage kick today for some reason.
Yeah, well, I am, I guess. But all of this, when federal judges and the Supreme Court are allowed to rule that abortion is not murder, that's a state decision. State decisions having to do with marriage between a man and a woman, those are state decisions. Gambling's a state decision. Drugs are a state decision. There's almost everything.
Well, you forgot about the Supremacy Clause.
No, the Supremacy Clause has to do with things that deal with all the states all at once. And states can have different rules, different laws, different standards. And the Supremacy Clause is not defined. It's very vague. And,
well, I'm not a constitutional scholar. Heck, I'm not. I can't even spell scholar. Anyway.
I can spell Constitution. But anyway.
Hey, what'd you think of your boy, Steve Pankey?
Well,
uh-oh,
he's spending a lot of money, and they need to put him on television. They need to put him on all of the debate stuff, but they only put the big three. And there's about, 5 or 6 Republicans, maybe 7, that are running for governor. They need to hear all of them.
We'll see what
Especially
happens.
Steve Pankey. I just looked last night, and he spent $94,000 or, something like that.
That's big money.
That's big money. He deserves to be on everything that they ought to let him on. No,
well, there's a media conglomerate that won't let that happen. Pro-Life, thank you for the call. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And Kevin Miller in the morning. We go to Blair in Boise. Blair, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Boy, just trying to digest that interview with Steve Pankey.
Well, I was thinking about that too, and I really appreciate you having on all these different voices. You know, you've had on Mr. Brown. I believe you've had on Mr. Blukoff. You know, aside from the mainstream Republican candidates, and I just wanted to tell you, I really appreciate you having all these different voices on. I would like to give some advice to Mr. Pankey. He sounds a lot like Governor Huckabee when he was running against Mitt Romney, and in a state like Idaho, you're really shooting yourself in the foot to do that. You know, the other thing he needs to do is he needs to get more prepared on his answers. The answers he gave were weak sauce, really weak sauce. So I would encourage him that if he's really serious about the governor's race, he needs to study up on the issues. He needs to be able to, at the drop of a hat, come up with an articulate, specific instance to illustrate his points, or people are just going to look at him and just go, seriously, they let this joker on TV? Because he is not prepared to do a debate. So I'll just leave it at that.
Blair, thank you for the call. Thank you for listening. More of your calls next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning. Attorney General Jeff Sessions expected to outline the government's case against California. The Justice Department claims sanctuary policies make it impossible for federal immigration officials to do their jobs. Former Sacramento County Sheriff John McGinnis says the conflict is tough on law enforcement officers and
it's also employers and landlords who are getting conflicting messages from the state and the federal government.
The move comes after Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf warned illegal immigrants about a pending ICE raid. Critics say she obstructed justice, but Schaaf says she broke no laws. In Washington, Rachel Sutherland, Fox News.
Thank you, Rachel. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to Tom in Nampa with Kevin Miller. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Kevin. Well, before I get into what I basically called about, was a couple callers back was invoking states' rights for. It kind of ceases to amaze me how people use states' rights as to preserve their favorite prejudices. They did that in the South for 100 years after the Civil War to keep Uncle Tom laws effective, promoting racial discrimination. Hey, I bet they're even doing that in California for the protect the illegal immigrants. Would surprise me. How long has the grocery tax been on here in Idaho? Hello?
Yeah, Tom.
How long is the grocery tax, the sales tax on groceries?
Yeah, Tom, I got that the first time.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No worries. You got me. It's been around.
Well, evidently it has always been that way. You know, California taxes just about anything that moves except groceries. And you had Tom Alquist on yesterday, and he said that 1/3 of Idaho lives in poverty. I wonder where he gets that figure, but if that's the case, which I don't think it's that high, then I think that that's probably the strongest reason to repeal this grocery tax. I think it's one of the most regressive we could have, and why the governor doesn't want to sign legislation to repeal it. I'm working on my income tax right now. They do have an income tax credit in which they give part of it back to you. But what about the people that don't make enough money to pay income tax and fill out an income tax form? They get none of that benefit.
Well, I think where the Dr. Alquist gets his statistics is, it was last night I was, again, working on my backup career because this thing could go under at any time. I was talking to folks, and, look, when it comes to standard of living, when it comes to wages, if we're not the bottom, we're near the bottom. And that's pretty much been ignored. And, I was talking to somebody, I go, yeah, but you look at the home building, and they said, look at all the people retiring from California moving here so they can afford it.
Well, you make it sound like we're West Virginia or Mississippi, but I thought Idaho standard of living was pretty good here. But
the wages are not. The wages are very low.
Well, then, I guess, they haven't raised the federal minimum wage in 9 years now, 7.25. And there's about 18 states that have a higher minimum wage. So maybe it's time for Idaho to do that and raise that because, they say, well, let the marketplace determine it. Well, it seems to be in states that have a low minimum wage. So it seems to be the standard by which every other wage is gauged. And it pulls a downward effect. I don't know how you like to be at the bottom of the ladder and not have a raise for 9 years while the cost of living keeps going up and there's tax on groceries. So maybe they ought to look at that and see what some of these governor candidates. I know would have to say on that. Trump said he was in favor of raising it a bit on the federal level, and not a word's been said by either parties about doing that.
Good point, Tom. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Doug in Mountain Home. Thanks for your patience. Good morning.
Morning. I've been listening since I got into the pickup and got on the radio. Everybody's, calling, wanting to know what they're doing. I seen it when Bush was going out the last time. I mean, it's called payback. The people that put him in. It's just like why Trump, he said it. That's why he wouldn't take no money, because he don't have to pay nobody back. And you see what's going on here in our state with the governor, and I can see no reason that it wouldn't stay the same thing if Little gets in. Who do you think coached him? And that's all I got to say, Kevin.
All right, Doug in Mountain Home, we appreciate it. We continue on taking more of your phone calls. Brenda in Boise with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Brenda.
Good morning, Kevin. Okay, I'm not usually up this early, so pardon me, but I wanted to say a couple things. One is, if we had more people like you, this world wouldn't have a problem at all. You are just the voice that... Do you want to run for governor, please? But you're so kind and fair, and that's very unique, especially these days. And my take on it, number two, is I've listened to you for a long time and the myriad of people that are in so many topics and subjects, and you're spot on every time. But I think an overview in a spiritual realm is like, we have to understand there is good and evil, period. And the bullies that are evil, they won't stop at anything, up to including murder. So we have to fight the good fight. And everyone you have on your program that is an advocate of that which is right, whether you're Christian, Jewish, Mormon, whatever, there are many paths up the mountain to our Creator. Be kind and loving and help our fellow man, okay? That's not what this planet is about, my knowing. I had a near-death experience when I was 17 in a major car accident, out of body. I was on my way, and it was just, I was not my time to go. I'm convinced. And now, almost 40 years later, I can see through so much of, like, why are people so unkind? Okay, that's evil. But there is a definite line between, even somebody that is selfish, narcissistic, whatever, but there's a definite line and difference between good and evil will always try its ugliest to take us down. And my knowing, again, is this planet ain't it. We are here to learn to be kind and loving, and those that come to our Creator willingly, not out of, say, fear of fire and hell and damnation. To me, it's a natural thing. Thank God, to be kind and helpful, and that's what I've done in my life. But those that are, kind of riding the fence really need to understand how powerful evil is. And
we see it in the media. We see it in the language.
Always.
We see it in the video games, Brenda. We see it all over the place. It is distorting the minds of the young and the old.
Right. And scripturally, I'm not quoting because I was raised in church from 2 years old till 15, Christian church. And organized religion doesn't really set well with me. God bless everyone, whatever, find your path and whatever suits you. But I do recall things like our Creator, God does not want us to be afraid, coming to Him out of fear. It should be out of just running to Him to love and to amazing things. And it's a choice. People have absolute choice what they want to do in any given situation. And when you get angry and honk on your horn and speed and go on.
Well, and we see that with the tailgating. Brenda, thank you for the call.
Yeah. Okay. God bless.
God bless. We roll on. Dan in Middleton with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm ugly and old, just like normal. But that
I can relate.
That clown from California, Tom was his name?
Yes.
He's part of the problem, not part of the solution. Guys will come up here from California. They'll sell their 1,500 square foot house on the coast for $500,000. Move up here, buy one for $250,000, driving the cost of housing up for the rest of us. They do nothing to add to the economy, and they bitch about it, causing the politicians to basically kowtow to the Californians, which is why California is so screwed up to begin with.
Well, they seem to be bringing that, you're right. How else would you explain, no votes, no votes, no votes, no votes, business as usual in the legislature?
Right, and here's the other part of it. That guy thinks he may think he's a conservative in California, but up here he's damn liberal. We've been driving this state pretty well for the last 100 years, and they've driven their state right into the toilet. And there's something about where you sleep and not going to the bathroom where you sleep. Well, they haven't learned that yet.
Great point, Dan. Thank you for the call.
You bet.
580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller in the morning. Don't forget, coming up tomorrow, we'll be at Columbia High School once again.
16-year-old India Webb wrapped up her 5-minute plea to keep Hillsborough County school employees unarmed, with tears streaming down the Strawberry Crest High School students' cheeks.
Arming them is not the answer.
India's comment led into a discussion among members who all shared her opinion.
This motion carries unanimously. This board supports not to arm our teachers.
Board members voted to let Governor Scott know how they feel. This came as state lawmakers debated whether certain school employees should be allowed to carry weapons. But lawmakers in favor of the idea believe this is a responsible way to defend classrooms.
A responsible way to defend classrooms by disarming teachers. We'll talk about it next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
16-year-old India Webb wrapped up her 5-minute plea to keep Hillsborough County school employees unarmed, with tears streaming down the Strawberry Crest High School students' cheeks.
Arming them is not the answer.
India's comment led into a discussion among members who all shared her opinion.
This motion carries unanimously. This board supports not to arm our teachers.
Board members voted to let Governor Scott know how they feel. This came as state lawmakers debated whether certain school employees should be allowed to carry weapons.
Which is, what we talk about quite some time at 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Good morning, Kevin Miller with you. By the way, I saw this on Facebook, the other day, and had a chance to tune into it, and I put it on the Kevin Miller Show Facebook. We'd invite you to like it. Why? Why not? If you support the program, give us a like. That would be great. And this is a scene from a classic television show called All in the Family. And if you want, you can check it out on YouTube. Heck, you could probably buy them on DVD or such, and it's a fascinating look at American culture. And here you have the protagonist, played by Carol O'Connor, Archie Bunker, talking to his son-in-law, Meathead. And who doesn't have a son-in-law named Meathead? And they disagree. Archie, of course, the conservative. Mike, or Meathead, is the liberal. If you watch this show, this will bring back memories. But even back over 40 years ago, the media was trying to disarm America.
Oh, gee, this big mouth again.
This station has always...
Why can't you give it a rest?
Well, this is an evil that we have permitted for too long.
Don't tell me the big mouth is talking sense for a change.
Quiet, will you? The state must be willing to buy back every gun in private hands.
What?
He's talking about guns. Only by enforcing even tougher gun laws can the tide of violence and death be halted. Guns must go before more of them go off.
Well, that's where you're going, buddy.
Guns must be regulated.
Hey, what are you doing that for? What the hell do you have to say? He's a fairy like all them gun control guys.
I'm for gun control.
Tell it to her. Maybe she'll get the marriage and know.
Archie, what do guns have to do with maleness?
What do guns have to do with maleness? Duke Wayne, buddy.
What?
Clint Westwood there, buddy.
What are you talking about?
Gary Cooper, Sergeant York. I could go on and on and on.
And by the way, remember, this is from a show over 40 years ago where I think we've all become similar to the frustration that Archie Bunker has here, where you had the media trying to get rid of the guns.
But it do no good because talking to you is like casting pearls into wine. Tell that the old lady Heitziger down the street no guns. She'd have been glad to have a rod when them two burglars busted.
There we have it at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And whether we're talking about our friends at Independence Indoor Shooting or the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, again, it amazes me that people are so averse to guns. Now, in the Idaho legislature, you had a big vote yesterday, and you have the progressives, you have the libs very upset with the state representatives saying, well, it looks like that if you're convicted of a misdemeanor or of domestic violence, that you can still get your gun. In fact, here's the headline: House votes to let domestic abusers keep their gun rights in Idaho. So there you have it. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, we need to make sure that the bad people don't get guns. So the vote was 39-31 to prevent the measure from moving to the Senate after critics argued the bill would infringe upon the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Our friend, Representative Brian Zollinger from Idaho Falls, said statistics show if people want access to a gun, they will, but there's no way to enforce it. Now you have a recent opinion poll from the Idaho Attorney General's office countered that the bill did not violate constitutional rights. Well, again, think about this. We're saying if you've been convicted as a criminal, then you should not have a deadly weapon. That's it. According to Melissa Wintrow, a Democrat from Boise, she sponsored the legislation We Could Save Lives. Well, I guess that's like passing law against murder or anything else, right? Just because if you pass a law, that doesn't mean that it will be enforced. You know, we go back to the murderer at Sandy Hook, mentally unstable. His mom legally bought those weapons. He went in, killed her, and then took the weapons. Efforts in Idaho to increase any hint of gun control are often blocked by GOP legislative leaders, especially in years like this. Well, no, really, GOP leaders actually block access to the Castle Doctrine, stand your ground, concealed carry, constitutional carry, campus carry. So I think they're consistent when it comes to weapons, if you will. Now, let me know what you think of this. Well, first, 56 after the hour, time for traffic and weather together with Kevin Miller in the morning. And back to the Statesman on KIDO Talk Radio. The bill would have made it a misdemeanor for people convicted of domestic violence to possess firearms within 2 years of convictions or crimes. It did not instruct convicted domestic abusers to turn in the guns they already own, meaning it would have required abusers to follow an honor system. 28 states and D.C. have passed similar legislation. Now, here you have Republican Representative Fred Wood saying, I'm going to stand with battered women and children today, and I'll ask you to do the same thing. Wood, a retired physician, he said he supported the bill because he treated victims of domestic abuse for nearly 40 years. I see. Interesting. Well, what I find interesting is this bill can make it to the House floor, yet the Castle Doctrine can't get it out of committee. You literally have to threaten lawmakers to get stand your ground, constitutional carry, campus carry, a hearing. So maybe they are consistent when it comes to gun laws. No gun laws for anybody. Think about that. I'd like to get your thoughts on this, on whether or not this was a good move. To me, it's telling that, again, the ability to protect yourself is not being heard by our elected officials. But the ability to take your gun away is. In our beloved conservative Idaho. Shocking, but maybe I'm not seeing everything. That's where you come in. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio, Fox News next. Stay tuned. Stay informed.